Hello, it's Eric from E.M.B.R. and today we're doing Zwift Games Stage 5, the Epic stage. This one, I had to get in the right mental space for sure. I knew it was going to be rough. But as you can see from the thumbnail, I didn't necessarily understand how rough. I had some goals I thought were achievable. An hour and 15 to hour and 20, closer to hour and 15, the better I'd feel about it, and the better position I'd be in the overall Zwift Games standings. But by the end of this race, the effort it required to hold on to those goals, it took me to another place. But I say all that with the knowledge of post-race me. Let's see what pre-race me was thinking. Hoping the legs are ready. We're racing the clock, not the field, but we're hoping the field can help us against the clock at least. But hopefully, to the bottom of Mayan, and hopefully, to the top of Mayan, or even the top of Itza, and the bottom of the grade, at which point I have no hopes. Yeah, gonna carry, draft, and field as much as we can, but not blow up clock, not the field. And this is a longer race, so I am going to time lapse portions of it, especially these parts in between the climbs. But yeah, pre-race me, as you could tell, the goal was use the field to have as much speed through the initial climbs, up Jarvis, through the dirty Sopresa, up the bottom of that Epic KOM into the jungle intersection, through that descent, up Mayan, up Itza, bottom of the grade, all bets are off. That was my hope. Just keep the speed up with the group, not get dropped in any of those punchy climbs. It should be within my means, but you just never know. That was the goal. And so far on this lead-in, everything's going as planned. Not too many fireworks. Didn't really expect too many fireworks before Jarvis, but once Jarvis starts, who knows? So trying to work my way towards the front before that happens. As a note, I will be putting in bookmarks for the start of the KOMs and those sorts of things as well, so you can always use those to navigate as well. But speaking of KOMs, we're already in the Jarvis. It starts out pretty shallow, which is why you might not have noticed, but the actual KOM start was a few hundred meters back or so, or a couple hundred meters back. I'm just sitting here towards the front again, trying to make sure I don't have to do too much work. We'll call this tail gunning, but yeah, I'm tail gunning from the front, if that makes sense. I'm trying to keep like 2-3 bikes ahead of me in the front, so I'm getting maximum draft, but also not falling too far to the back where I've got to sprint 50 meters to make up a surge at the front or something like that. This little punch here, I am getting up and standing. I'm going to do a mix of standing and sitting throughout this. When I'm standing, usually a little bit lower cadence, sometimes 60s or 70s or even lower, but and then when I'm sitting, I'm usually high 80s, 90s, and sometimes even over 100. But just trying to settle in here. Had a good warm-up before this. Not too stressful at this point. You see a little punch out the front. Again, there's a pretty good descent after this. Only thing I don't want to have to do is have to work on the descent. So as long as I can sort of stay at the front, stay in draft, I'm happy with this from a Jarvis KOM perspective. Again, you can see me sitting almost 100 RPM, high 90s, and then I think I punch again, do some standing on this steep section here. Can't recall. Yeah. Again, trying to mix the load between my hamstrings and my quads. That might be a little bit of foreshadowing, but yeah, I am being thoughtful about it at the beginning of the race, so I can at least say that. Nose is a little bit out in the draft. This is one of the things where I miss steering. I would be steered into those bikes better if I had it, but just sort of have to feather acceleration and try to fall into where you can get 2 or 3 bikes in front of you. Yeah, I'm going to speed it back up at this point through the descent, then we'll pick it back up around dirty Sopresa probably. But after the KOM bender, there's not too much. There's a little flat section, a little bump before you get to the proper descent past the banjo guy. But yeah, I just basically, again, I'm tail gunning from the middle, if you want to call it that. It's not too much danger here. We're going to go back out around the volcano here in a second after we leave Jarvis. It does, if I recall here, there's a little fake out where it makes it look like you're going to go up a ramp. You're not. That's a lie. Right turn, Clyde. Dirty Sopresa next. That should be fine.
and then rest and get prepared for a very steep sneak up on you bottom of Epic.
But yeah, while you're getting a good deal of rest here before Dirty Sopresa starts, my main concern was people would go hot up Sopresa and then Epic, the bottom of Epic would be right after that. There's a little bit of pace. You can see me kick up into the orange or yellow there, but I'm not even slowing down in the video at this point. It's fairly safe. It didn't go as hard or hot as I thought it might. So I was basically able to just tail gun, sit in the back, get back into the blue, rest, chill out a little bit. Again, just at this point, the promise of the race: use the field. I'm not racing the field. I'm just using them for this part of the race to keep the speed up, be very efficient in the draft, tail gun, and wait for something steep like this, the bottom of Epic. And Sopresa wasn't that bad, but I do have some concerns here. And my main goal on this lower part of Epic, it's steep, as you can see, and not even 10% at certain sections. You see some feathers going off. I think people were thinking, hey, I may not stay attached if I don't use this. I'm definitely trying to save my feather for later. I am standing up and grinding, though. You can see sort of high 60s, low 70 cadence, just big old gear, and then the slope, 500 plus watts. Try not to burn any more matches than I have to here, but it's important to stay attached, because you make it through this steep section and then there's a 2 or 3% slope after the intersection. If you can stay through that, then you just got a long descent to Mayan. So this is a selection point. Definitely makes a huge difference in your overall race if you can stay attached. At the same point, like I said, not trying to go any more red than I have to. So a little bit of draft, as you can see. I mean, at least in this section, I didn't catch what it was at the steeper. Probably not much there, but here, sitting in the draft, until it gets steep, you can see down to 10, 12, etc. But in the shallower sections of this, you can still pick up 20, 30 watts. It's definitely worth tail gunning this climb rather than being at the front of it. And yeah, here you can see when it goes into the orange rather than the red, I'm up in 40, 50 watts of draft. 500 watts of power, which isn't great. And I do overcook it here a little bit on the steep section. I was thinking they may hit it a little harder, so I do get my nose out of the draft. Not too bad in that red section, because you can see even in the draft, this is one of the lower, 10 watts, 5 watts, etc. of draft. So not too bad that my nose went out to the front there. But yeah, just trying to be in the group, make it to the intersection up here. Actually, even before the intersection, it starts to level out. So about here, I'm feeling, yeah, we're good, and sort of fading a little bit, a little further off the front, just feeling like, yeah, I'm not going to have to worry about trying to pick up a lot of pace to close a surge at this point. At least I hope I don't, unless somebody gets silly in the shallow part of the climb. But if you look after that blue section, that's kind of where the intersection is, and then that orange red, that's the second half of Epic, which you'll get to after all the other climbing, descending the grade, etc. So they kind of split Epic into two parts on this route. This first bottom part, then you make a right turn, go through the descent through the jungle, and then Mayan, it's the grade, descend, and then back up the top part of Epic at the end. Yeah, this was a concern for me, or at least it was the last point. Like, if I can make it past this, I'm probably gonna have a decent time, because I should be able to make it up Mayan clean. If I can make it through this here clean, I can certainly make it through the descent clean. And Mayan is not too bad, or I'm hoping it's not too bad. So yeah, definitely one of the boxes I want to get checked. I'm going to speed it back up here again, though there is still a little bit more of the climb, but it's shallow now, and I'm feeling far less at risk. But while during the race I felt I was out of danger at this point, for the sake of argument, I'm only going to speed it up 2x versus 8x here, because this shallow part, especially if you had to burn matches on the steep part, you could definitely get caught out here. I'm still doing orange and red power in some cases here. So until, not the end of the first yellow, but until the end of that second yellow where it actually starts to properly descend, don't get caught napping. Definitely stay near to the front. You can, again, tail gun from the middle, as I call it, and been calling it. And it's not tail gunning. You keep on using that word. It doesn't mean what you think it means, but yeah, just play it safe. Stay in the draft. Once you get here, though, you're pretty good, and follow the descent. And there's not too much technical about this descent. It really is just, again, sitting in the back or the middle, wherever you're most comfortable. Only one little piece is the rope bridge, and again, there's not even much to that. What I do on that is I do try to sneak up a little bit further from the back or the middle, more towards the front, so you see me get behind. Still in draft behind these two, so I'm not out of the draft, and then punch it up the bridge. Sort of your speed from the descent takes you up most of it, but then punch up the last part, right back into the draft. It's all pretty straightforward, and you can see there's plenty of blue and gray at this point. This is actually the one proper time in the whole route, I think, that you get to rest, like truly rest. There's a little bit of rest in between Jarvis and Dirty Sopresa, but this is the one time you get to properly rest. But as you finish that descent, you're about halfway done.
Alright, about halfway at the waterfall up here. Distance. Not halfway on elevation.
For the next part here, there is somebody punching off the front. I'm racing the clock, not the field. I do want to stay with the field through these two climbs that are upcoming, but one guy off the front doesn't prevent me from doing that, so still sticking in, waiting for the KOM to start proper, and I'll slow it down for that. It's going to be a very draftable climb, this. You can see right now I'm still 150 watts at this beginning, 140 watts. It'll be not that much draft as it starts to steepen up a little bit, but trying to keep, for the most part, feather my acceleration and my power. At this point, keep sitting, because I think I'm trying to save my legs for my quads anyways, for the the punchier sections where I've got to really do some standing power. So slipping back a little bit, as long as I'm in draft here, and again 50 plus watts here, I'm feeling pretty good. Not trying to lead from the front by any stretch. Pretty calm climb at this point so far. I'm actually feeling not too bad. Heart rate 160s, not even into the 170s yet. I know it's not long before that won't be the case anymore, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good that they're not hammering too hard at this point. I will say that if I get stretched here, I'm willing to use the feather. Not likely on mine. I was thinking I might need to use it on Itza, but I'd even use it on mine if I was getting stretched here. I do want to stay attached and in draft for, as you can see, still 80 watts in this section here. So there's still a ton of value if you can stay attached to the field, as long as you can through this section without blowing up. Do see 3 forks going up, and because the pace hasn't been too hot here, I do push a little bit. Again, not racing the field, but if I can, this is within my means at the moment. I'm feeling all right, and I'm still 3-4 bikes a draft, so not too worried about whether I'm here or in the middle. I'm catching about the same draft with 3 bikes ahead of me. Sitting in here, not too bad. Here it gets a little steeper, so do have to be watchful. This is sort of the punchy part where before it crests, people are always going to throw in their punches or their surges. So 400 plus watts, still sitting, and again I'm trying to sit as much as I can here before I have to punch, and figure I have to punch at the end is my thought. See my face, I'm definitely feeling it, and heart rate is now getting towards 180 instead of, it was only creeping in 170 before, so we're definitely getting to the thick of it here. Wouldn't be bad to have more than just one bike ahead of me. I'm just concerned about being a little close to the front here as we get to the crest. You can see, I think in my in my head I kind of realized that, and I'm sort of slipping back, and you can see the difference there. 50-50. It got a little shallow here now. It's going to get steep. We're going to lose draft, but we got to punch. Stay with them. Yeah, got to stand and punch there with the legs, with the quads for sure. But it's pretty good here. Again, people are going to surge right to the top. You know they are. I just want to be 3 or 4 bikes a draft, whether that's in the front or the middle. Not being worried about getting dropped off the back. I don't want to dangle off the back because that could get me into trouble. You can see PBs there, 329. I have to look at that's my real PB, but past 90 days. And you'll see here when we get up to the top of this, what was it, 3, my time was, I don't know, yeah, 3:33, so I don't know if that was a PB time or, again, within range. I think I've gone 320 something on this climb, but either way, safe, a lot of orange and red. Didn't feel like I burned too many matches. You do get a chance here as well. Climb's not technically over, but this little section in between Mayan and Itza, you're gonna get the descend here before Itza starts proper. So get a chance to calm down here for sure. Recoup a little bit anyways. And whenever we get into the descent, I'm trying to just get off power as much as I can. Keep the legs spinning. I don't want them to tie up. And that's one of the dangers. Sometimes you'll see me, I'll pedal backwards rather than stop completely. I don't know if I do that here, but oftentimes when I'm racing, if I'm trying to descend and just not spend power, I'll just spin the legs backwards. But here it's one more little punch here before proper descent. Still well attached, not too concerned here, but just trying to stay in a good position. And what you'll see me do is I'll punch hard up through the descent, push towards the front, and then sort of get off the power once we crest, and sort of drag to the back on the descent. But what I will do, sort of watch this on this crest as a for instance, is I don't stop at the crest. I'll keep pushing power. Hopefully this is a good example of me doing this. Usually this is what I'll do anyways. Yeah, you see me pump up to 400 a little bit even after the crest, and then get off the power. I just want to take speed over the crest. But then once over, yeah, completely chill. Again, 100 watts, just sort of spinning the legs to spin the legs, not putting much pressure on the pedals. To be honest with you, these rollers here, but this whole middle section of it is pretty tame. People aren't pushing too hard, and you do see some folks surging there through the middle as I say that. But again, take some power over the crest. I'll try to punch it through at the end, 330 right up over the crest, and then chill out. Again, in the middle, not up front, trying to keep at least 3 or 4 bikes ahead of me. Not at the back, not at the front, just sort of comfortable. Alright, if I got dropped here, I wouldn't necessarily feel bad. Like, I do want to stay attached all the way to the bottom of the grade, but definitely have gotten a ton of value by staying attached this long. Fortunately, the pace isn't too hot right now. Again, it's sort of the middle of Itza, I think, because people throw punches on mine, or just because it's sort of shallow. Usually it's pretty calm, and then it's the end of Itza that you have to worry about. But again, near the front, 2 to 3 bikes ahead of me. At least that's what I try to do. Heart rate's in the 160s. That tells you that I'm not working too hard, and also the graph tells you I'm not working too hard either. But that's about to change, most certainly. Get over these 2 rollers, and then things are definitely going to surge. And I handle these 2 rollers much the same as the other ones. Just take power over the crest, off the power on the descent. If I were actually feeling good in on a race where I might be able to attack, I have attacked over these rollers. Not so much in advanced anymore. Usually in advanced, I'm just trying to hold on for dear life. Save my matches when I really, really need them. Yeah, you can see some people taking speed over the descent. I'm trying to do the same. After that, when you get into this, call it cobble or whatever you want to call this section, sort of the blocks, this is usually where it starts to hammer up, and you can see already 400 watts. People are starting to cook. I think I've been sitting for most of this, but yeah, time to stand. For some of these sections, definitely need to punch. A little power. Again, I hit it a little harder because I just expected people to hit it harder there, and they didn't. But that little section is not. If my nose hits the wind on a steep section because I hit it a little hard, I'm not that bent about it because there wasn't much draft in that steep section anyways. But fall back again to where there is draft on these shallower sections, picking up 30, even 40 watts probably if it speeds up. Yeah, above that. As it gets shallower and the speeds get up, you can pick up to even 50, 60 watts. Yeah, it just depends on how much speed we take. But yeah, as I'm expecting, it climbs here, or the draft. My draft numbers climb here, and will up and until the speeds are going to keep going because this is where people are surging basically. So Basically, if you got dropped right here at the orange, you're not going to carry that much draft up this orange part. That's where it's going to start to taper out again. But I do want to stay attached here if possible, because you do catch some decent draft on the descent off the crest down to the actual KOM banner and then to the left turn of the grade. So if I had to spend a feather here, I might. Trying not to, just trying to stay near the front, stand up and punch, and stay attached. I'm feeling it. Heart rate's above 180, so I'm not gonna say I didn't burn matches here. We definitely did. Didn't burn my feather though. Yeah. Again, just a stand, just enough to surge with that power, and then again at the crest, I want to hit it a little bit, and then off the power. It's like, okay. At this point, I just want to catch my breath as much as possible. Grade is upcoming. So off the power as much as I can. You have the value of being 3 or 4 bikes deep in a line. And try to catch my last bit of draft before the grade starts. Just cumulative climbing at this point. I'm definitely feeling it. There's no question about that.
Alright, TT time.
Okay, but TT time, again, I said at the beginning of the race, if I could make it to the bottom of the grade, this left turn still attached, that would be success. And here we are, 45 minutes at the bottom of the grade. I am still going to punch a little bit here. This first part of the grade, as you can see, I was 80 watts, 70 watts. It's going to keep decreasing, but you can catch a little bit of draft still before it goes to all red. But you can see the further we get up, the percentage grade keeps going up, and the amount of draft watts that you can pull go down. So pretty quickly here, I'm above 400 watts. I know I can't sustain 400 watts at this point in the race up the rest of the grade. So if that's what it takes to stay attached, yeah, that's not what I'm going to be doing. I'll blow up if I do that. So already starting to dial it down into the 300s, and as soon as I start to dial it down south of 350, I think you probably need to be doing I would at least need to be doing 375, 400, somewhere in there probably to stay attached to this. And that's not something I'm going to be able to sustain at this point. So top half of the grade, as expected, TT time. 300 watts or so is my goal. Again, I'm going to average more on that on this first gate than 300, because I was like 400 at the very beginning where I was still catching some draft. But you can see the field is splintered quite a bit. There's down to 14 that are ahead of me, and there's just a line of us single file, ITT type scenarios, onesies, and there's not much. Again, falling back to one of those guys at this point doesn't make much sense. At some point I might want to get attached to somebody like for the descent, but I'm just sort of at this point in my head trying to keep the legs good, the heart good, grind out 300 watts, and even in my head at this point, it's just there was some fatigue building up, even at this point, to where I'm like, maybe you could hold 320. No, dude, don't try. Like, pull it back. You're not going to sustain 320 or 330 at this and be good, like the whole way, and then be good, even with the descent in between this and Epic. If I tried to go too aggressive on this, I felt I'd be risking blowing up, and if I can just manage reasonable power the rest of the way in, I think I'll be close to that 115 to 120. Definitely, I think south of 120 at this point, but I feel if I can just manage my effort, use power when it's important, that I'll be in good shape versus blowing up. But this next section, I'm going to speed up, not a ton, but about 2x. If you look at the mini map, even the folks in front of me are starting to split up into ones. It's getting stretched. Gate 8 here, 2 more to go. There is someone on my shoulder right now. I'm just still riding my own race though. You'll see him come in front of me here, and as he gets in front of me, look at the draft. I mean, the draft is negligible. It's like 1 watt. So it doesn't matter if I'm in his wheel or not. The only part of it that matters is at the crest. It would be good to have to be with some sort. You know, even if it's 2 or 3 riders, it might not be bad. Guy here, I don't know if he just blew up, had a mechanical, so that he's falling off, but still have this 1 rider. I'm trying to stay kind of close, but again, keep the matches as much as I can for the end where I know it's going to get punchy. It's just, this is no other way to call it but an ITT. And if, again, as you look at the mini map, most of us are doing ITTs at this point. Maybe people were working together, but it's 300. If you look at my on the left, 338, and then it came down to 3 at that first gate where I went hard, but after that it's been 305, 309. I'm averaging 303, 307 here. I do kick up here a little bit because I started to think, you know, wouldn't be bad if I could get him again, not so much during the climb, but at the end of the climb, if I could keep him in range. So that was the reason I kicked up a little bit of power there. But it's hard going, right? So back down to just north of 300 again. Really thinking, you know, when we get to gate 10, then we can worry about trying to get him in our range again. And so I'm going to slow it back down as we hit gate 10 because I am going to make a concerted push. Even hit the feather, because here I'm thinking, you know, where am I going to get more value of the feather? If I could use the feather to get attached to him, that would be more value than I can get with it anywhere else. Plus it's super steep here. I'm driving 400 plus watts of power. At least until my legs give up. This is where I realized ambition, right? I wanted to be attached to him. You can hear me in my face, you know, I just didn't have the power. But that was the premise of using the feather there, was wouldn't it be nice to be attached to him once we got to the crest? Just didn't have it. So still not giving up here though. Kicking what I can. Even north of 500 watts, I just can't sustain it. You can see, like, I'm just about shutting down. It's just a big glycolytic push. Very little fuel in the legs. It's gone. Right back down to 300 watts again. This is where the suffering of the race definitely started. No question. And here I'm bringing it down. My thought here is save some watts for when you get to the crest so that you can actually punch the crest and pick up speed as soon as possible after the crest. Right now we're at 13, 14 kilometers per hour, 15. I'm trying to get it over 20 into 30 even, you know, punch over the crest. Reality though is you see me hit 400, then I'm just off again. I should still be on the power here right now, getting it above 30, 40. I just was a little bit dead, so. While my legs are still spinning, they're not spinning that fast. I'm in the 200 watt range. I need to get up to speed soon.
Get up to speed.
I'm still gassed here, but I do punch it there, and you can see I'm starting to get up there. Goal is get above 56, get into super tuck. Take note, KJ is 11 seconds, Babin 35, and Verbal Warren 51 seconds. That's what I'm looking at. People behind me don't care about anymore. It's those 4 in front of me. Can I make up the time they dropped me on the climb? Can I make that back up on the descent? Yeah, mostly at this point, getting my rest where I can, trying to keep it above 56 so I stay in super tuck, get a little bit of fuel. Yeah, it's managing this. Right now, I'm not bringing them back yet at this point, but I'm starting to spin up a little bit more here, start to focus, get back into super tuck. And again, I'm keeping this at 2x mainly because this descent does matter. It's not just the climbs, the descent absolutely matters in terms of your overall time. And even being alone, you can do work here. So you can start to see now it's starting to come down a little bit. Those folks that were out in front at 35 seconds, they're down to 31. KJ's descending pretty well. And again, I punch it pretty hard there. That definitely mattered from an overall speed perspective. You're definitely starting to see the folks in front of KJ. KJ's descending pretty well, but the folks in front of him, we're both bringing them back. Punching pretty hard again. Even KJ's coming back.
Trying to balance rest and speed here. I could descend faster, but I need to reclaim heart rate.
And I'm getting some fuel as well, just taking an opportunity. But speed at this point, it's almost 70 kilometers per hour. So I was able to do that without pushing. He saw me spin my legs backwards just to keep, I'm still in super tuck, but I'm not letting my legs lock up, basically, right there is all I'm trying to do. Waiting for the next bit where I can punch. 1100 watts there for a second. Definitely carries speed, super tuck, and if you look, 10 seconds, 16 seconds. Remember, they were 35, I think, those two that were the most ahead of me, the Babin and Barabel. And Warren was, I think, 50 something ahead of me originally, so he's not come back that much, but even Warren's coming back, 30 some seconds plus made up on Barabel and Babin, and making some time up on Warren. Getting punching hard. I'm starting to see them come into sight now, which is a good thing. Sort of keeping pace up here, not punching too hard yet. Over at crest, definitely want to punch again. Cat says hello if you can hear that. Now they're very much in range, and hear what I'm doing, punching again over the crest, and I'm actually fine coming through them. What I would hoping now is that we'll start rolling through each other. So I'm willing to do, hey, it came through, little work, hoping that now they'll come through and push, and we'll just, there you go, like that. Now I punch.
Just trying to keep the speed up.
And there's not much left in this descent here. I don't think we're going to pull Warren back, but yeah,
they're going to drop me on the hill.
Just for overall time, it's some value to keep up. They're definitely not pushing though, so I'm down to 100 watts here. A little bit of dirt section here, and then right after this the climb picks up. So yeah, just trying to catch just the last little bit of draft at this point. Again, Warren's not coming back. It's us four. I figured my chances here, I figured maybe all three of these guys could drop me. They were ahead of me for a reason, but at this point, just getting this last little bit of value, getting ready for it to tick up. Wishing everybody well for the climb.
Good luck, have fun.
And then yeah, this first section of Epic, the top, or this middle section, I guess, of Epic, technically, punches you in the face right off the bat, 11-12%. So yeah, stand up, grind, 60 RPM, 500 watts there for a second, whatever, 400 watts now. But I'm actually surprised here that I'm pulling ahead of these guys. I did not expect that. I'm not even really, at this point, not even after that initial surge in the mid 300s. So a little surprised that they don't start yanking me right off the bat here. Barabel does start to drive a little bit of watts now. And again, at this point, this is, even though I'm with 4 people on the climb, actually, Babin's already starting to fall off the back at this point, but there's not any reasonable draft here, especially in this steep section. See, 2 watts right now, nothing there. So I'm just trying to drive my own race. I am a little surprised, though, at this point, that only Barabel seems to be covering any space on me. And I'm also looking at there's a couple sections on Epic here where you can crest and catch some speed on the descent. So I am watching that as well. I'm like, hey, if I can, whether I catch Barabel or not, if I'm gonna punch these descents, and if that takes me past them, great. If it doesn't, so be it. But I'm trying to ride the most efficient race that I can without blowing up. So yeah, get steep here right before the crest, push up 600-700 watts there for a second. Hit the crest. I want to take speed over the crest, so took speed, got up to speed, and then at the crest, hit it again a little bit, and then off the power. But yeah, that just got me above 50 kilometers per hour, pulled me back ahead of him, and then as you come into this steep section again, you carry that speed to where I don't have to pop watts that quick, although Barabel maybe did that better than I did, or he just hit it harder when he got to this part of the climb. But spots ahead of me. But yeah, right back down again. Whether there's not much draft in these steep sections, it's just 9, 10%, 11%. Just trying to drive watts, knowing that I've got, you know, an hour and 3 minutes now. That 115, I can't do the math in my head. And I'm thinking maybe I'm certainly in range. I'm definitely south of 120. So I'm just trying not to blow up. You know, trying to keep the sitting where I can, grinding it out a little bit when I can. Maybe, you know, sort of switch between the quads and hams. So here I'm onto the quads. And when I go to the quad standing, I'm grinding, you know, 60 RPM. And when I'm sitting, I'm popping the gear down and pushing higher RPM, basically, for the most part, is what I'm trying to do. Took me a second to get into that lower gear here, so I'm only in 80. Normally, if I'm sitting, I like to be pushing 90 plus RPM. Because if I'm sitting and I'm pushing power like this, there we go. Now I'm into the 90 RPM. But if I'm sitting and I'm grinding at low, I find it puts a lot more pressure on my hams. And you see why that matters here in a second. Yeah, fortunately I'm up to 90 RPMs. At the moment, looking at this next crest, just trying to keep the power up. KJ and Babin have fallen off the back, surprising to me, but I'll take it. You know, again, not about them really, but sort of surprised that they were so far ahead of me and then didn't have the juice for this climb. Varabel definitely, I'm pretty sure it's the last I'm going to see of him. There's just, you know, he's pushing watts that I can't, you know, 5 watts a kilo right now that I don't have in my legs at this point in the race. I can do 5 watts a kilo on a climb, but so deep right now, not so much. Again, getting near a crest, so trying to pop some speed up, take some speed into the flat section here. North of 20 kilometers per hour. Again, you're going so slow on those steep sections that I just want to take a little bit of speed into the flats. And then off the power on the descent here, just to give the legs a little bit of relief. And then sadly, this climb's so brutal, especially after everything that came before it. You're right back in the 8, 9, plus percent type climb. Would like to be over 300 watts right now. Legs are starting to feel it a little bit for sure. Heart rate is fine. Like, I'm not pushing enough power for the heart rate to be that high. It's just cumulative fatigue at this point. I'm sitting and grinding for the most part. I should be standing and grinding more, but I just not gotten good enough. That's something that come April, there's going to be some long sessions where I'm going to start learning to do that for power. And this race has only solidified that, and you'll see why right now.
Ha! No, you don't. No, you don't.
And that's me having a conversation with my hamstring. The initial yo was me feeling the twitch of a spasm and a cramp. And then I was like, no. I've felt this in a marathon before, and I know where that can go. You got to let off the power. You got to start switching how you're running. You start being more quad dominant, but yeah, it's not a good thing. So at this point, I'm starting to try to muscle, even though I'm sitting, I'm trying to sort of muscle over the pedal stroke with my quads, and definitely feeling that. I'm just trying to survive until this crest. Like, actually, at this point, I'm like, let me get off the power, take some fuel, just try to, if that can help, just get some sugar. Sometimes that'll help the cramp. Yeah, just, it's, what I'm thinking mostly now is, you're an hour and 7 in. You just got to survive another 8, 9 minutes maybe. Find a way. Stand up and grind, because that's putting it on the pressure on my quads. So that actually didn't hurt. It's taking it off the hamstring, which is still misfiring. It's definitely still sort of spasming a little bit. My face is the way it is, and probably in the background I still have the live audio going. I'm suffering quite a bit here. There's just no question about it. Power is down below 300, and I'm just trying to like find a way. all the effort you put in this far, you can't mail it in. You got to find a way across. And then again, driving hard with the quads, just the push-ups, because the quads aren't what's wrong right now. It's it's the hamstrings that are wrong, sadly. Yeah, you can see it in my face and the noises. My wife told me after this that the dog pushed open our master bedroom door with his ears down and all kind of concerned. I think he thought I was dying out there or something, just because of how much I was moaning, yelling. Speaking of yelling, I'm gonna mute this a little. But yeah, from here to the end of the race, it is just suffering, and I'm actually probably gonna just stop commentating and let it play out, for that matter.
Ah! 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 My fucking legs. On the quads. Ah. Just hold it together, brother. Hold it together. Take the pressure off. Come on. Come on. Quads are good, quads are good. Ah! 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 Come on. Ah! Just come. I just come. Downhill, downhill. Come on. Speed. That's through the damn line. Ah! Ah! I hate you all so much. I love you all so much. Oh my. There's some damn efficient folks. I rode more efficient, but quite a bit further back. Good job for them. Damn good job at 3.9 and still being attached. Love to watch that. Oh my.
Here's a quick look at the results. I'll come back to them in a second. I'm going to just do a little post-race thought first, though.
I couldn't get max heart rate at the end because I couldn't push the power to drive max heart rate. But trust me, I was at my limit. My hamstrings were, especially the right one, were spasming from about 3.5 to 4 kilometers in, or left. I know what that means for marathon. You got to slow the pace or race over. Or in this case, cycling gave me the option to stand and put the pressure on the quads, but my quads were burnt too. They weren't going to cramp. They were just filled with lactic and done because they were bearing the pressure from my hamstrings. I was basically pedaling with one muscle almost for the last 3.5 to 4 kilometers, or one side of a leg. Hamstrings were just, and that was not looking for the race to be over after all that effort. So just cut the pace. Without the cramp, maybe 115, I'm still happy. South of 120, I was gonna be happy. south of 115, I was going to be ecstatic. I think I was, what, 116 something? Maybe, or 117? I'm fine, considering the cramp, or the near cramp issues. I'm fine with how that went. Oh, I made a lot of time on the descent, at least I feel like I did. So I'm happy about that. That put me back on pace. Maybe that was part of the reason, because I didn't get the rest there, that I had the hamstring issues. Hard to say. When you're at the limit, it can go either way. And I was definitely at the damn limit. It's been a recurring theme on these Zwift Games routes. That's why I've been enjoying them. They absolutely have pushed me.
Here are the overall results. My overall power for the race, not that high. I could barely drive power at the end. I was basically trying not to cramp and shut down. So the fact that I came in at 116, I'm still pretty proud about that. And on that 116, again, it wasn't about my position in this particular race. It was about the overall time. And that 116, as the 5th race, puts me in the top 200 overall. And I think most folks that are going to race all 5 have probably raced all 5. There are some makeup days still. Maybe I'll fall out of the top 200. I don't know. I'm pretty happy overall. On any given race with the A pluses, I know I'm not going to necessarily podium or be, maybe even be in the top 10. But if I could just keep respectable times, I knew I could do well in the overall. And again, not top 50 or anything, but just up there. And that's been the goal. That's why I drove so hard. That's why I suffered at the end, was just do the best I can across the whole series. It's been fun. I'm going to catch a couple days of rest, but I may next week do a makeup on Downtown Eruption. That's the one race I still think, if I do the climb right and the descent right, I could shave another 30 seconds or 40 seconds off my time. But we'll see.
All right, there we go, folks. Pause here for a second. Show you what this looks like before we descend the grade. Come in the garage. Frame here. Available for purchase. Yes. Upgrade. Let's go. And then 260. Then 320. Then 380. Then 440. 1,600 kilometers total to get it to stage 5. Speaking of which, since we're done and the bike's not neutralized anymore, let's descend. Alright. See the horizon? No more of that today. No more of that today. That was just a war of attrition on Epic. I don't know what to tell you. It was just cumulative by the time we got to here. Honestly, you look at the curve, there's no... It's right in here. But even that, as close as it gets. So you'd think that you got more, just maybe the way that average power is delivered, I guess. We'll look at the intervals metric. I'm glad that's over.
In looking at intervals, it doesn't really necessarily seem that devastating of a race. I mean, I'm saying this was the most I've ever suffered on a bike. Really, it wasn't necessarily because of any one particular effort. It was all about that cramp and just trying to find a way to work through it. W-bal never hit 0. Heart rate didn't really necessarily hit max. It was just cumulative ugliness that eventually caught up to my legs, and hopefully we'll learn from it, get better from it. But again, I may do Downtown Eruption next week. We'll see. And then April, it's going to be some training vlog stuff I'm going to start doing, but more to come on that. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.